Welcome to Megabucks Radio. Conversations with successful entrepreneurs, sharing their tips and strategies for success. Real-world ideas that can put megabucks in your bank account. Here's your host, Nina Hirschberger.
Hello and welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Nina Hirschberger, and today my guest is Eugene Montanez. He's the co-owner of Allegra Print and Mail. He also has they have a sign business out there in California. Eugene's been around a long time in this particular business, in the print and mail business and the sign business. In fact, he wrote a book about direct mail, about it not being dead. The book is called Grow Your Business with Targeted Direct Mail. He's a man after my own heart. In fact, in many years, I was called the queen of direct mail. So, Eugene, what a pleasure. What an honor that you would spend this time, a Saturday afternoon, Saturday afternoon for me. I guess it's morning for you. But welcome to the show, and thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for putting this together. I think given the times that we're at right now, it's critical that business owners feel some sort of hope for what's going to be coming next. And I think you should be applauded for being one of the first out there and trying to be a solution to a problem that none of us would have ever thought of 2 months ago.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? In fact, here's a backstory for Eugene. He lives in Corona, California. So that's certainly got to be an unusual thing these days.
We used to have a lot of jokes about Corona beer. So I'm sure once this is all over, there's going to be, but there'll probably be a lot of references back to this. Hopefully we'll get through that in a fairly short order.
So the whole purpose is he's got such knowledge. Our goal with this podcast, with this radio program, is that hope. So Eugene, you got some tips for small business owners. I don't care. It doesn't have to be a printer. What we're looking for is just things that are happening, things that you see, creative, anything that you would like to share with another small business owner.
Being in the printing business and the sign business, we interact with a huge variety of different types of businesses and all different sizes. I mean, everything from a single mom and pop operated restaurant to, large corporations. And, on a daily basis, I've dealt with millionaires and billionaires and have relationships with them. So it gives me a really good insight into what people are thinking now, what they were thinking 6 months ago before all this happened. And I think an interesting anecdote, about 2 months ago, we were at an economic forecast for Orange County and Western Riverside County here in Southern California. And the takeaway was there's no recession coming. The virus was known about in China. And, his only caveat was, as long as that doesn't morph itself here, we're fine. Well, he did release a new economic forecast. I haven't even had time to read it, but we obviously know at this point, no one has a crystal ball. And I think in talking to businesses, you have the two realms. You have the ones, like you said, that are scared, and then you have others that are looking for what comes after. So obviously, I think we want to concentrate on what comes after and what you can do now and be prepared to do when the flag is lifted and we're all back to quote unquote normal. One of the first things that I was thinking of is the vision for the second half of the year and the future. I think you need to sit down and look at, if you had your druthers, if you were going to even be starting your business from scratch today, and although you have some background knowledge of where you've been, what would be your ideal? Where would you like to be in 6 months, and where would you like to be, say, in 2 years? And draft your ideas and plans with that in mind, and not be looking at the news and seeing the doom and gloom, but really to be able to look forward and think of the positives, how you can be something different, whether you're morphing the business a little bit or just being where you want to be.
You reach out with all of these companies. Are you seeing more and more kind of mastermind with each other, or what's happening that way?
Yeah, in fact, I was with our CEO of one of our restaurant chains just last night. And so he has a mastermind of other CEOs of other restaurant chains similar size as theirs. So they're masterminding. I think getting together with your local chamber of commerce, I think most chambers around the country are being very proactive right now. I know ours is. I'm on the board of directors for ours, but we're trying to be very proactive, get information out there to people, find other business owners locally if you can, or if you know them through an association across the country, get together with them. And we, with the printing part, we actually have a performance group / mastermind group, whatever you want to call it. And we get together. There's 6 of us, and we get together by teleconference, obviously, right now, and be able to go through what people are doing well right now and what they're planning for the future. So I think everyone has some opportunities, and I would say just stay away from other business owners that are only being negative right now. You know, try to cheer them up, try to bring them out, but if they're unable to, you know, find some other local business owners or within your industry across the country, find other ones that want to have that forward-looking versus reverse-looking attitude.
You know, I always knew that masterminds, and you and I kind of are part of a very similar marketing group. Oftentimes it's good to have 2 kinds of masterminds, one in your own industry and one that is mixed of industries.
I agree because a lot of times within the industry, everybody has they have blinders on and they don't see the forest for the trees. So like the restaurant one, you know, after our conversation last night, as I was driving around today, I was writing down notes for him. You know, they've gotten to the size now that they're much more corporate. And I think they need to come back down and be much more family focused and localized versus the corporate. And so I think you're right. I think you really need to have people outside your industry and inside your industry to bounce ideas off of.
Well, now we want to be kind of a mouse underneath or whatever. Tell us those notes. What kind of notes as you were driving around that you would be feeding back to that restaurant owner?
Well, they have 2 different styles of restaurants. And, I think having, again, going back to the marketing group that we're a part of, is to be able to have a newsletter for, more of the higher end business customers going to, one set of his restaurants and being able to, interact with them on a much more personable level. Even though they have been, it just really go back to the roots and really start back over again and think through ways that you can interact with the people a little bit better than maybe they have been in the past.
Well, Eugene, that brings up, first of all, you got to have a list. Many businesses haven't even developed a list, but what you're saying is, if you've got a list, have you been able to segment that list? Because you're talking a little higher end client. So do you know anything about your customers?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the things over the last few years. And I mean, you can't go backwards, but I think it's a lesson learned for going forward. I mean, so many people have been concentrating on email marketing. So when they actually have contacts of their customers, at the best, they may only have their name and their email address. They don't have a physical address. They may not have any demographic information about them. So I think the lesson to learn and take away from this is, as everybody moves forward, whether you're going to do a mailing today or not, have that data, because you can't do a mailing if you don't have that data, and you can't replicate that customer if you don't have that data. So I think, we both come from a background more of the direct mail, and I obviously think direct mail has high value, but it doesn't help if I go see a client and they have no data, because then how do we do a mailing?
Yeah, and oftentimes, not only do they not have their physical address, they don't even have their email address. So, it's really, really critical. Now, if you're a dentist, so I'm thinking, so I go to we moved here where we live right now here in Indiana. We're real near the Indianapolis area. We moved here about 2 years ago, and of course, then you got to find all of the new doctors, all the new dentists, everything. You've got to start all over. So I chose a dentist, and I went to that dentist. And, they give you some sort of a special deal for your first time, and then they give you this prescription. Well, this prescription was a bit salty. I'm thinking, really? I go to the dentist every 6 months. Is this true, really? And so now with this virus and with us hibernating, and their office is closed for the most part, with the exception of emergencies, which you would imagine.
Right.
I'm sitting here thinking, you know what? I wonder, I would give them money right now if they gave me a special deal to take their prescription that they told me I should do. If they gave me a special, if you take it now and pay us now for future, services, we'll give it to you at this. I literally went into my email today and looked to see if I had an email that I could correspond with them. Nothing. It's the email that comes from them, it's do not reply at their dental office. Really? I mean, that's part of being the creative kind of thing. What if that dentist, if they had physical, what they do, they have our physical addresses, had put a little postcard in the mail and said, look, we know, things are bad. Here's what we want to do to serve you. We want to do this. But again, nothing. Crickets.
Yeah. And one of the other items that I've been thinking about and talking with other business owners is that this negativity actually adds an opportunity for all businesses that you can, as we're talking about the vision for the future, you can look at where you're at now and actually retool your business. Are the people the right people in the right spots? Is the marketing that you're doing to the right people? Is your you just start a list internally and just go through all the parts of your business, and are there parts of that business that could be retooled? Are you marketing all your services? I feel especially bad. We actually started a program to do free signs for restaurants, because I feel that restaurants are some of the hardest hit of all the businesses, small local restaurants. Most of them live month to month at best, and to have half or 3/4 of your business taken away, if you're still open doing takeout, overnight, I mean, there's easily 20% of restaurants are not going to survive this, and it's very, very sad and unfortunate. So we're trying to do what we can do with the restaurant community to make sure that as many of them can survive, do survive. But I think it gives you that opportunity. Go ahead.
Let me give you a tip from somebody that I'd already interviewed, and they told me what was happening with one restaurant in the Arizona area. It's brilliant. So this guy has 5 restaurants. 5 eat-in restaurants. Of course, overnight they're going to be closed. So rather than just do takeout, what he decided to do was get it down to just 2 restaurants where you were going to have takeout. But instead of his normal menu that requires you to have all sorts of food and you never know what's going to happen, he says, I'm going to make one thing a night. And I'm going to tell you what it is. We're going to send an email. We're going to put it on social media. One thing. I don't even know if that one thing is necessarily one thing that's on his normal menu.
His normal menu,
He's a barbecue place is what it is. So here it is. And it's $10 a meal. You drive up in your car, and what he's got is he's got his workers that have a long pole. And on the end of the pole is a little hook. And they've got the meal in a plastic bag. So you pull up and you put your fingers up. How many of those meals do you want? They put it on the pole, they push it up to you, and then you pull forward and you put your $10 or however many for each meal into a bucket. They don't even take your money. No credit cards, no anything. He is slammed busy. Oh, and here's what he said. He said, it's all going to be $10. He said, and because I want to keep my employees, so $3 of that is my food costs. The other $7 is going 100% to my staff.
Wow.
And he's going crazy. See, now that is smart. That is, so, I mean, you could take that idea, and if any of your restaurants in your local, and of course the media is, I mean, they're all over this. He's getting exposure.
I actually counseled with a couple of restaurants that aren't even our customers. And one, but he's a local guy, I mean, fairly small, breakfast, lunch only. And so he was trying to get out there and do like a pack of burgers and do this and do that. And I said, to do exactly what you're saying and put a set of meals together. So he's doing that. Like one night it's lasagna, the next night is pork chops, but he's failing in the implementation because on the pork chop dinner, and I told him, keep the price point at $20, so it's worth your while to do something. So he's doing all these packs for $20, but on the pork chop night, he did 10 of them. And I went on the Facebook and they had 10 or 20 people that wanted to order. He said, oh, it's already maxed out. It's like, and he's announcing it the day before so he can prepare for the volume. So he's doing exactly that, but the implementation is, he doesn't have the vision. He's got the implementation in a very small amount. So exactly what you're saying is important, but you have to have the second half too.
Well, he's got to have somebody he's probably cooking the pork chops. He needs somebody cooking the pork chops.
Yeah. No, he actually has separate cooks. And so, like, he has a couple of his employees are Hispanic, so they made tamales one night, and they made 100 tamales. Well, our family has made tamales with 2 or 3 people without being in a restaurant configuration, and we can do 200 in a day. So I'm not sure why, and they showed pictures. They had like 6 or 8 people. Not quite sure how they ended up with only 100 tamales, but it's the implementation part. But his expectation is much lower too. So, I mean, that's okay. He's keeping busy. He's keeping his employees busy, and but he's not gonna be anything different when he's through this. And that's the key. If you don't want to be anything different when you're done, that's okay too, as long as you make it to the other side. It's what is your expectation? I personally would like to be slightly different when we get to the other side. And so I guess that's part of it too. And that's one of the other notes that I had before we talked is, what do you want, that vision again? Do you want to conquer your competition? Do you want to be something totally different? Do you want to be the market leader when you get to the other side? Or are you okay being what you were before? And that's okay too. If you survive this and get to the other side, which hopefully everybody that's listening to this, because anybody that listens to this is in the minority to begin with, because they're out looking for something to help. So hopefully everybody listening to this is going to make it to the other side and be prosperous. But do you want to be more than you were before or the same? And that's okay, but you need to know what that is.
Yeah, that is such wisdom. Are you seeing, is there anybody else in your area that's doing something really creative that's catching your attention? I don't care what industry.
One of our customers and friends has a chemicals company. So he's actually been approved to produce hand sanitizer. So he's been making it by the gallons and donating it to the police and fire. So that's very nice. It's a very small thing, but it's still something that makes a difference. A lot of the community have gotten together to make masks. They're not FDA approved. They're not going to be perfect masks, but they're getting together and being able to feel like they help. And these are more individuals, not businesses. But one of our suppliers that's close by in Brand, they've gotten, I think, national coverage now. When this thing hit, 100% of their orders stopped for T-shirts. So they retooled and started to make masks out of cotton, basically T-shirt material. They bought different sewing machines. Even the sewing machines they had were not up to par. So they actually made their T-shirts in the U.S., so they were not importers. So they actually had the equipment and the employees to begin with. So he started making them and donating them all over the place. What turned out that FEMA got hold of, the information, and they ordered 1 million face masks from him.
Oh my, and paid for them.
And paid for them, yes. So, I mean, his intent was not necessarily to make money, although business people obviously always want to make money. But, he was doing this out of the goodness of his heart to be able to give them out. So there are good things out there. Obviously, I think the news media is picking up on some of that. I think some of the other groups and calls I've been on have actually said to stop watching the news, which I think there's some value in that. I've been involved in government for so long. My side job was I was on the city council and was mayor for the city of Corona as well. So it's a little hard for me to just give up. But the news media seems to be doing more positive stories, which is helpful. It's not all doom and gloom. The unfortunate part is no one knows when the end is. And that's the hard part. It's not like we can say in 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, we're turning everything back on again. And that's the hard part. Employees that have been laid off, businesses that have no business coming in. No one knows when that restart is. That's the hard part.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think that's why these kind of stories and these kind of conversations, though, are really critical and important. One of the conversations I had with one that I interviewed talked about a teacher who, this was a number of years ago, that kind of transitioned into being a tutor. And they're focused on high net worth people because, you can tutor from anywhere. But I think they were in California, so they were tutoring Silicon Valley. Well, this happens. We got to stay away. Well, guess what? We can still tutor your student online. And now all of a sudden he has a worldwide business because of that. What if he hired some other teachers and grew? I mean, so the point is, get connected with a group that's getting creative, that's thinking out of the box, that, like you say, is planning for their future, drafting their vision board or whatever it is that they want to look at in the future.
Yeah, there's a lady that has a karate studio here locally. And, most of these stories, other than people, because we don't have a lot of customers coming into the store right now, we have limited lobby hours, but are through Facebook and through calls that I'm talking to people. But she has a karate studio. And so she showed on Facebook the other day one of her classes, and it had a whole bunch of all her students all on one screen. And I said, well, how did you do that? And it's actually a feature in Zoom. You go to the gallery view in Zoom, and you can do a class online with multiple students. So that's what she was doing to stay connected with her students. And, I participate in 2 different gyms, and one is a boot camp kind of a style. And you get relationships with people, and not being able to see those people, in addition, not being able to exercise, has huge ramifications, both for that business, which is not getting any income, and for the members. So some of them are doing like a video class, but none of them have done like an interactive Zoom, like, okay, 6 o'clock in the morning, we're all going to get together and we're going to be on screen and we're all going to do this together. I think there would be a lot more motivation if people did that.
It's interesting you say that. There's a CrossFit gym in the area that we moved from who is now renting out her gym equipment for them to take home in their house. So when they do those Zoom calls, they got that box to jump on, or they got that bar to raise. I thought, well, that's
exactly.
clever.
I mean, it should have been. I thought of that as well. It should have been any of these gym. We have one nearby us. It's like, why don't you rent out a set, even only 4 weights? You don't need to have a full complement of weights, just something that you have that ability to have a different exercise and rent them out. Or if they're your current clients as part of your membership, we're not going to give you credit for this month, but we're going to give you this equipment to use at home, and we're going to do interactive classes and this and that. So then there's some sort of options, and you still have that recurring revenue. Someone doesn't say, well, I need a credit for the month because you've been closed a month or two.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure that she's necessarily even charging for the rent. It might be that they're just checking it out. I'm not sure, but go ahead.
Right. One of the other things that I wrote down as far as a note is that anybody that's out there, all your competitors, the first thing everyone cuts, because when something like this happens, you're looking at expenses to cut. The very, very first thing that everyone cuts is marketing. And obviously there are times right now that you may not need to be doing. We're doing a postcard for a realtor right now. I don't know that that's the best money spent, especially the way real estate is in California, but that's for her option to keep her name out there. But you need to decide, if you're stopping the marketing for now, don't stop the budgeting, and be able to have and retool, have some postcards ready so that you can call your printer, your mail house or whatever and say, okay, drop it, May 15th, drop it June 1st, whatever the date is, it's all ready to go, and you're the first in front of anybody's eyes. So I think rather than cutting marketing expenses, even though money is going to be tight for everybody, is to make sure that you're capitalizing on being the first back to market.
Yeah, that's real wisdom. Real wisdom. In fact, there's a lot of businesses who understand that concept. They're cranking up their marketing. And it's not, I don't think that right now it's not, sell, sell, sell. It's perhaps give, knowing
right.
It'll come back around.
Right, exactly like what you're doing right now. A couple of other people that I've talked to, they're doing the exact same thing. They're helping people. And, if you talk to 100 people and a couple of them become clients, hey, that's great. But at least you know that you can sleep at night because you're doing everything you can do to help, another business person. I mean, that's when I'm done with the call here, I'm going to go take out some of the free signs to some of the restaurants that haven't had time to come by, because they're busy trying to keep their business going. So we've talked to a couple. I'm going to go take them out there just so that, they're able to still let people know that they're there. And you're right. I think emails that you may do right now, anything you're doing, has to be more of a help message rather than a sell message. And I think that's what people have to realize, is that right now is not necessarily the time to sell unless you have a creative product that fits in with everything that's going on, but really be able to help your clients and your prospects. Because if you're the only one out there helping your prospects with ideas or innovations, whatever it may be within your industry, hopefully they're going to remember that when this is all over, and they're going to remember, hey, Joe or Mary were sending me these emails and they had some great tips. I should go give them a call.
Since you're in the printing business, the one thing it just crossed my mind would be cool is for you to put together a restaurant directory of those that have either the takeout or the drive-through or something. Because, you could stick it on your printers and you could make a little booklet out of it. It doesn't have to be a fancy anything. It'd be kind of a cool
that's a good idea. Yeah, we did do that a few years ago, obviously with just normal restaurants that were open. But yeah, that would be very helpful. The problem is getting it to people because nobody can be out. So we'd have to mail it out and be able to do that. But,
no, because if they're coming to the restaurant through the drive-through or to pick up, it's in with their pickup thing.
Right.
And so you provide a certain amount of copies to each of the restaurants that are in the booklet. Is just a thought.
Yeah,
well, Eugene, I am looking at the time, and we are coming to the very end. So I really, really appreciate your time. I really appreciate all of your knowledge, your tips. This was fabulous. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, is there anything, would you like to give your contact information out?
Yeah, in fact, I'm glad you asked, because anybody that sends me an email, I'd be happy to send them an e-copy version of my book, The Direct Mail is Not Dead. So if they send me an email, it's Eugene at AllegraCorona.com. It's EUGENE at Allegra, ALLEGRA, Corona. Unfortunately, everybody knows how to spell that, .com. So if anybody sends me an email or they send you a request because something, they heard the talk, just forward it to me and I'll be happy to send them that out.
Well, I appreciate that. That's very kind. So until next time, this is Nina Hirschberger. Remember, now is the time to start drafting a plan for your future. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to Megabucks Radio with Nina Hirschberger. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or to listen to past episodes, visit megabucksradio.com.